here's a thought about dog whistles. And I mean, there's so much to this. Where do we start about where this started for you?
So it started out with a tweet. Where somebody started talking about identity politics and saying they're so sick of identity politics. And I was like, I think identity politics might be a dog whistle. I wonder if it is. And so I just started looking into it. And, I did not in any way, shape, or form intend this to be a 5-parter. I intended this to be a one-off. But there's so much. There is so much there that's of importance. And also, I'm always drawn to these things where journalists have failed, like where journalists are either knowingly or unknowingly making things worse. And dog whistles is absolutely that category, where there came a point in history when people had to start using dog whistles, which is like coded messages, right? In political speech, because they weren't allowed to say all that racist stuff out loud anymore. They were punished for it. And journalists have never figured out how to handle it. Never, not once. And so here we are getting ready to go into midterm elections again. And as soon as I began looking for headlines that include dog whistles, I found them immediately.
Really? Yeah. Of course you did. Here's an incomplete list of remarks that are subtly discriminatory, but used regularly by politicians, journalists, and commentators. You can read this if you subscribe to the newsletter. Celeste writes, these are just some of the ones you found. Urban, inner city, globalist, cosmopolitan, New York values, welfare recipient, mother program, etc. Small business, officer involved shooting, super predator, woke, economic anxiety, silent majority, critical race theory, international banks, law and order, forced busing, federal intervention, decent people, anchor babies, crack babies, nanny state, thug, illegal alien, Muslim shit. I almost nailed it. Muslim terrorist. Well, anyway, it goes on and on and on. I mean, how do you classify something as qualifying as a dog whistle the way that you define it and write about it here?
So they've actually done a lot of research on dog whistles. And in order, a dog whistle is effective when it has a subconscious effect on people, or when a certain group hears it and everyone else thinks it's innocuous language, right? Like a really good example is Dred Scott. I had no idea all these times when politicians would bring up the Dred Scott decision. That was the Supreme Court decision where they decided that if an enslaved person was brought to, say, a free state like Ohio, they remained a slave, right? They weren't suddenly free because they were on free soil. So people would bring up Dred Scott all the time. I didn't know what that meant. And that's a classic dog whistle, because the people who were in the club, which would be the anti-abortion club, understood what that meant. That meant the Supreme Court has made bad decisions in the past and they've been overturned.